Coming up on Network Africa. Results from around 20% voting districts counted so far in South Africa's election, the ruling party leading with 44%. Nigerians in the United Arab Emirates speak on President Bola Tinubu's 1 year in office. Plus, the United Nations pays tribute to the service and sacrifice of its peacekeepers around the world. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Olarinde. We continue our coverage of the South African elections. The first results have been announced by the Electoral Commission, coming from 20% of the voting districts. From the results counted so far, the ruling party, African National Congress, ANC, is said to be leading with 44%, followed by the main opposition party, DA, the Democratic Alliance, with 25%. This election has been touted as South Africa's most closely fought elections since the African National Congress came to power 30 years ago. Now, the radical opposition party, EFF, has about 9%, while the new party, Umkhonto weSizwe, MK party of former President Jacob Zuma, is on around 80%. Well, final results are expected over the weekend. The initial results suggest that the ANC might lose its parliamentary majority for the first time since Nelson Mandela led the party to victory following the end of the racist system of apartheid in 1994. Let's speak now with our correspondent, Kayla Megwa, who is in Johannesburg. Hello, Kayla. Well, vote counting continues. It's underway, and we're seeing that the ANC is in the lead. What is the update?
Hi, it's good to see you. And yes, it has been a very exhausting process. We left the voting station at Midrand. We left at about 2 a.m. thereabouts this morning, very early this morning. And it was a very interesting dynamic. We showed up at these voting stations at about 6 a.m. We already saw people on the queues. And, by the time we left some of them to move around Johannesburg and move around Pretoria, we stay seeing these long queues. In fact, in Pretoria, it was interesting to see so many young people on queues that went down the block, crowds in squares and parks, getting ready to cast their votes. And we thought that meant everybody was out to vote. But what we didn't know was that more people were coming. So by afternoon, those numbers tripled in many places. And, voting is supposed to be between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. What we did notice is, by 9 p.m. people were still on the queues. So, the election umpire had to make it clear. We have to make sure everybody votes before the counting starts. So in many places, of course, almost across South Africa, really, the counting process started very late in the night and it's still ongoing. Yes, you are correct. The ANC seems to be in the lead. But one thing that is interesting is the fact that for the first time in 30 years, there is the suspicion that the ANC may not have the majority of votes in parliament, which would mean that for Cyril Ramaphosa to remain in power, they may have to go into some kind of coalition with other political parties. But we're watching to see how all of that works out.
And how does it make citizens feel knowing that the ANC is in the lead, especially for those who were hoping for change in this election?
So in many ways, this election, many people, if you listen to the radio, you would hear people say things like, this is South Africa's 1994. So it's almost as though the generation is waking up the way the generation of 1994 woke up 30 years ago. So it does feel a lot like a protest vote. It feels like a generation of people who are trying to take the future of the country into their hands. And, got that feeling when we saw so many of them out on the streets, in squares, everywhere, getting ready to cast their votes yesterday. It felt like the people who are trying to say something, people who have decided that, okay, we've had enough of bad governance. The issues in South Africa are very serious. Crime is on the rise. Unemployment is unbelievable. They have issues with electricity supply, but mostly jobs. A lot of South Africans are unemployed, and crime rates, drug use is also on the rise. So a lot of these issues, and they're blaming all of it on bad governance. So you do have to understand in many ways, many South Africans, this is their protest votes. This is their way of saying, look, we have to be able to get our country back. If the ANC is not able to, provide what it is that we need. But how do they feel right now about, projections that the ANC may still have, may still be in government, when when the results are announced? Of course, many people may be disappointed, but that absolute majority, in many ways, has been diminished.
And what have you observed, about the collation and the counting process?
It seems pretty fair, pretty straightforward. Center is there, there's screens everywhere. As the results are coming in, you're seeing them increase, you're seeing the dynamics change. So you may see something like in 30 minutes, and then 30 minutes afterwards, it'll be something totally different, So it's something that everyone has to keep watching. In fact, every TV station and everyone in South Africa is watching very closely, seeing how the parties are faring. A few days ago, I told you that it's going to be a war between the ANC and how these other parties who are flexing their muscles are going to be performing. So that dynamic is still being examined. And of course, the coalition is very straightforward, very open. Everyone can see the counting process was open for election observers. Like I said, we were at Midrand yesterday at the Midrand High School, and yes, the counting was happening. Sorting happened, the counting happened right there. Party agents observing, everything was going on. Very straightforward.
All right then, Kayla, just finally, what have candidates, and their supporters said about the polls since they were closed?
So a lot of people getting ready to eat their hats, so to speak. Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, at the time when the elections were about to start, he said they were certain of a firm majority. I don't know how he feels about that certainty right now. Things may turn around. We never know. But he said they were expecting a firm majority in Parliament. So we're watching to see if his prediction would come true. Mr. Steenhuisen said for the first time in 30 years, a path to victory for the opposition. And a lot of it, we've seen other political parties, the EFF, of course, being very vocal, and of course, the MK surprising everyone with their showing in this election. So lots of surprises, lots of smaller parties, of course, who didn't do very well. But, step by step, everyone has to try at least. But, watching a lot of the people, a lot of the other political parties have come up, the idea that they're going to be able to get some seats in Parliament, they're going to be a part of the governance structure, take away some of that majority sitting that the ANC has enjoyed for 30 years. So there's a lot of positivity and a lot of, patience, really.
All right then, Kayla Megwa, our correspondent in Johannesburg. Let's break this down further, talking about the analytical side to the elections. Joining us now is Tokmen Terzi, a political commentator in Johannesburg. Thank you so much for your time on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, South Africa, we know, is unique with its electoral process. I mean, one of the few African countries where there is diaspora voting, as well as special voting for those in hospitals, correctional facilities, and such. Do you think this process helps to strengthen the country's democracy?
Yes, actually, that is amazing. I am amazed by this democratic process. I am from Turkey, but I have been living in South Africa, so I am comparing both countries. So in Turkey, for instance, since 2015, the international observers and local observers, they say the elections are not free and fair. But in this country, we have seen the ANC, they formed in 1912, they struggled for 18 years or more than 18 years, and now they are in 30 years in power. But we don't see any allegation or accusation about election vote rigging. So everything is very transparent, and we are in the mid-range. They show in the big screen all the results, maybe some delays, yes, but They show all the results in a very transparent way. And almost 10 days ago in April, they voted, diaspora voted, and prisoners are voting, and elderly people are voting. They voting special votes. So it's a very democratic process are going on. First time ANC is under 50, but now they are going to announce the election result within 7 days. So after these 2 weeks is a very important whether the ANC is first time under 50, so going to find a coalition or not. So the discussion is going in a democratic way or not, because the MK party and ANC is most probably going to form a coalition with ANC, the EFF or MK, or Patriotic Alliance. They mostly represent the colored people in South Africa. So that after the announcement, we're going to see the critical days still are coming. But since yesterday, things are very smooth, very organized, and very transparent. Almost 180 domestic observers observing election, and 18 foreigners, SADC and EU, and some from Europe and other countries, they are observing the election. Yes, we can say it's a very democratic environment. All the parties are here. Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Terzi, you've answered, my next question about many touting that the ANC may lose its majority and, there might be a coalition government. But let's talk about the ANC. This is one political party that has been in power since independence in 1994. Would you consider that healthy for the democratic process?
Actually, it is not healthy that one party is ruling a country for 30 years. In many countries, we have seen here, the parties are in power. After 10 years, they start, state capture, and they acting like an owner of the country. So it's 30 years actually is too long. That's why people need change. But it is very interesting that ANC in 2019, the last election, got 57.2%. Now is almost 44%. Now maybe it will reach to the 45. It means ANC actually did not lose the votes because MK party is a breakaway party. Jacob Zuma is still ANC member. So ANC is still getting, if you combine MK and ANC, is still more than 55%. Means there are no much other alternatives, I think South Africans see, because ANC is a very established party and they have international vision. Yes, there's a load shedding, big corruption, the high crime, unemployment, cadre deployment. These are very big problems. But when it comes to international, multidimensional foreign policy, ANC has a history and ANC has a culture. So ANC, that's the reason I think still ANC leaders, I should not say ANC, even Julius Malema was a youth league president of the ANC. So they are still getting high votes. But as you said, it's 30 years is too long. And then still, people have no health, free health, no education, no free education. These are very big problems. And South Africa is a very rich country,
Indeed.
Rich resources. G20 country, but you still no university, free universities. No, even the high schools and primary schools, they have different types. You have to pay
a whole lot of issues,
fees.
A whole lot of issues, yes, for in South Africa. But we'll wait and see to see how it all pans out in a few days. We're expecting the final results. And we'll leave it at that for now. Thank you so much, Turkmen Terzi, political commentator. Thank you for your thoughts.
Thank you.
We'll take a break now on the program. Still ahead. Soldiers from the Central African Republic graduate after months of training in Barengo. More details, please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Nigerians in the United Arab Emirates are giving their opinions on the performance of President Bola Tinubu as he marks 1 year in office. Many feel that more can be done to make things easier for citizens in the diaspora. They spoke to our UAE correspondent, Mayowa Adegoke.
Whether positive or otherwise, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's policies as well as performance in office directly impact citizens living in the country. The same can be said for Nigerians in the Middle East.
1 year in office, it's okay, but it's not significant. Still have a lot of Nigerians who want to run out of the country. It's okay, but it's nothing significant to me. Nigerians still can't send money from Qatar to a Nigerian account directly. It has to be beaten about the bush. It's okay, but it's not significant to me. There's been no significant impact that is positive.
He came here almost 2 to 3 times to actually speak to the United Arab Emirates government to see how we can actually amend this situation. And also they visited Nigeria as well. So going by everything that is happening, people need to see some certain level of results before they can actually trust you back.
The issue we have been facing, the issue of work permit and visa ban for 3 years now. The previous administration did not really participate in dialogue talking about it, but for the Tinubu administration, they have been consistent and persistent on it, and the result it's showing now.
Living or doing business in the United Arab Emirates as a Nigerian has not been the easiest in the last few years. Yetune opened up a fast food restaurant, Suyaya, in Dubai last year, but business has not been exactly how she hoped it would be. So what gave you the confidence to open up your business at a time when the relationship between the UAE and Nigeria was still not in the right place?
Well, to be honest, we didn't think it was going to last this long. We just thought it was something that would maybe 1 month, 2 months, and we kept on going. We started, the vision started really in 2022. And, you know, we're still looking for spaces, looking for staff, you know, learning the intricacies of the business. And we just thought, oh, anytime soon they will open. Anytime soon the bans will be lifted, or we just kept on going, and it's taking everything.
President Tinubu's first meeting to the UAE last September is yet to yield promised results. Although Emirates Airlines' recent announcement on the resumption of flights to Nigeria is making an impression on the administration, citizens in the UAE and across the region still have high expectations.
Our government needs to represent us enough so that we will be treated with that preference that we matter. Because if a Ghanaian, a Cameroonian, and all of them are getting the visa, they're coming in and out. Uganda, they're rushing in and out. And Nigerians that have a good job, employed, and then maybe to renew the visa, it will be an issue. This should be sorted.
We don't feel heard. We don't feel supported. The current administration needs to look into the foreign mission to see what we can do to ensure that Nigerians in the diaspora are taken care of, like other countries or communities do.
As President Tinubu kicks off the second year of his tenure, Nigerians in the Middle East say they hope to see an improvement in the economy, which will reduce the pressure they face to increase remittances to friends and family back home. From Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, Mayowa Adegoke for Channels Television News.
Here in Lagos State, the Deputy Governor, Kadri Hamzat, has unveiled the state transport policy for implementation of deliverable regulatory framework. Mr. Hamzat says the long-awaited state transport policy will improve the lives of people through efficient, sustainable and accessible transportation.
You're welcome, sir.
The arrival of the Deputy Governor of Lagos State, Kadri Hamzat, signals the commencement of the transport policy document designed for Lagos.
Indeed, it is time to prioritize transportation policy.
The transportation sector involves the government, private bodies, and citizens who are well represented here at Balmoral Convention Center, Sheraton Ikeja. The State Commissioner for Transportation, Oluwaseun Oshiyemi, highlights the significance of the transport policy for Lagos, which will leverage on technology for better services.
This policy provides a comprehensive framework for the continued development and regulation of our transportation system. It is not just a blueprint, but our commitment to a future where transportation is no longer a barrier, but a facilitator of progress and prosperity.
Some of those who worked and ensured the completion of the transport policy say the document has 14 elements, such as road, rail, water, maritime infrastructure, transport safety and security, among others. It is a systematic approach that will help achieve intermodal transportation in the state.
With the transportation system getting more complex, with the integration of road, rail, and water transportation and the use of technology to ensure an efficient and effective transport system, the launch of the policy is timely to capture and guide development of the transport subsector in Lagos.
Transport is a means to an end. It's not an end by itself. Therefore, the policy for the development of the state is what should drive the policy direction. And this is something that was very much present in the way the policy options were evolved.
For the Deputy Governor, Kadri Hamzat, the transport policy is built on a foundation of inclusivity, sustainability, and innovation that will integrate various modes of transport systems in Lagos.
I'm sure we all know the challenges that we have faced in our transportation system for far too long, ranging from transportation congestion to pollution, inadequate infrastructure, among many others. However, challenges present opportunities for innovation and transformation. It is with this mindset that we have approached the task of crafting a comprehensive transport policy that addresses the need of all Lagosians.
It is now time to unveil the transport policy document. The Lagos State government says its commitment to traffic management and transportation is unwavering to ensure safety of all residents in Lagos State.
The UN's mission in South Sudan has commemorated the 76th International Day of United Nations Peacekeepers with a special ceremony in Juba. At the event, the special representative of the Secretary General and head of the mission, Nicholas Haysom, recognized the important contribution of the almost 18,000 civilian and uniformed men and women who serve the cause of peace under the UN flag in the conflict-affected country. The mission carries out a wide range of activities to protect civilians and to build peace and progress within the world's newest nation.
The challenges they face are greater than ever, but they persevere to protect civilians, prevent violence, support political settlements, and build sustainable peace. Their sacrifices will never be forgotten, and their legacy inspires us to continue our efforts in the pursuit of peace.
As we commit ourselves to building better together, the government of the Republic of South Sudan, under the leadership of His Excellency Salva Kiir Mayardit, supports your endeavor and is always ready to continue working with the United Nations mission in South Sudan and the other international agencies present in the country to advance the well-being and the safety of the people of South Sudan.
And finally, soldiers from the Central African Republic have had their officer graduation ceremony following more than 2 months of Russian instruction in Barengo. At the event, the graduates received their certificates marking the completion of their CAR Army's Counterintelligence Unit training program. Back in April, President Faustin Archange Touadera announced that with the support of the Russian Federation instructors, the nation had successfully trained over 10,000 servicemen, aiming to modernize its military forces to tackle new challenges. There are also bilateral talks on the establishment of a Russian military base in CAR. And according to the Russian ambassador to Bangui, discussions are ongoing between the defense departments on a location for the military base. And that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.